voters will determine the outcome of this campaign, and black women voters in particular will have a very large impact on our ability to win. And so I'm just going to say it plain. It is a problem that we now have an overall campaign for the 2020 presidency that has more billionaires in it than black people.
Well, that was New Jersey Senator and 2020 presidential candidate Cory Booker discussing the state of the Democratic primary. In a speech to Iowa voters, Booker lamented that the departure of Senator Kamala Harris from the presidential field, that she quit the race in part because she didn't have the financial resources to continue. Well, Booker says Democrats had once touted the field of presidential candidates for its diversity, and now all 6 remaining candidates who have qualified for December's debate are white. 3 other diverse candidates, Booker, Tulsi Gabbard, and Andrew Yang, have met the donor, but not the polling requirement. So joining me now, Sabrina Singh. She's the National Press Secretary for Booker's presidential campaign. Sabrina, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So why do you think he's speaking out now about this issue?
You know, actually, I will say back in September, our campaign manager, Adisa Dumisi, actually sent out a memo to, interested parties and said, we are concerned back then in September about the field narrowing to just, a tier of just all white candidates. And in that memo back in September, what we were asking for is pushing for this $1.7 million, to raise $1.7 million in 10 days. And we were successful in that, but historically, candidates of color have always struggled to raise money. And that's what really has brought us to this moment here, and why what you saw Cory talking about in Iowa today is, we're really disappointed by the fact that the top tier of this race is narrowing to just, 6 white candidates that will be on the December debate stage. And, we haven't qualified in polls, and that's why we're doing everything we can to do that. But, there has to be something said about, is this really where the Democratic Party is? And I think the answer is no. We know that's not where the party is. I mean, look at the 2018 midterms. Look at the diversity of, candidates that were swept in. So that was what he really wanted to call attention to.
There have been some folks, Tom Steyer in particular, who say the DNC just needs to change these rules because it created a disadvantage. Here's what Cory Booker had to say earlier today.
There's something problematic right now that we have a system as Democrats that we openly speak out against, a system where billionaires are shaping the rules to benefit them. And now we're reflecting that in our party's processes, where someone like Kamala Harris or Kirsten Gillibrand or Julian Castro are finding it hard to make their way, but billionaires find it very easy to land on the stage.
So what changes does Cory Booker want to see in the DNC rules?
Well, I think that's up to the DNC to actually make those decisions. We're the players, we're not the refs. But it is really incumbent on the DNC to decide, who gets to be on that stage. And I think what Cory said is completely accurate. We have more billionaires that are going to be on that stage and in this race than black candidates. And that is really not where the Democratic Party is. I mean, the person that won the most votes in history have been Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. People, when we take the safe bet, we don't always win. And I think that is something that Cory has really said, and that's why, Kamala dropping out of this race has been, it really had a big impact on our campaign. It was a really somber moment for us because she was just had such a historic candidacy and, inspired so many men and women across the country.
When you look at the comments that Cory Booker made today, it was in a state, Iowa, 90% white.
Yeah.
First out of the gate for deciding who can be the presidential nominee. Do you feel does Cory Booker believe that he's at an unfair disadvantage with starting this off in Iowa?
Well, look, I mean, Iowa's what skyrocketed Barack Obama to winning in 2008. I don't think it's really about the state and the order of the states right now. I think it's really about, getting to that debate stage, and are the qualifications fair? And I think that's something that is what Cory was really trying to shed light on, is the fact that, a billionaire can buy his way onto the stage, but someone like Cory Booker, who has over 100 endorsements in New Hampshire, is not on that stage. Has, I think, the 3rd most endorsements in Iowa, is not on that stage. But someone like Steyer is, why are we seeing that? And I think there has to be something that's reevaluated by the party at this point.
Our CBS News Battleground Tracker poll shows 49% of black Democrats in early state support. And here's a list here. You see Biden, then there's Warren, then there's Bernie Sanders. Harris was 4th with 11%. You look at this data point right now. What's the problem Cory Booker is facing with black voters?
You know, I think it is actually that black voters do not know who Cory Booker is right now.
But he's a senator.
Yeah,
it's not like he's new to this game of politics.
But he does not have the same name ID as an Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. And I think a lot of people thought that he was coming into this race with this huge name ID because, you know, the press corps does know who Cory Booker is, and they knew him from the time when he ran for mayor of Newark. But the reality is you go to voters in South Carolina and Alabama and North Carolina, they don't necessarily know that Cory Booker's even black. So that has been our biggest struggle with black voters. And I think the one thing that you will see, and I will say in that poll that you just showed, is that Cory's favorabilities among African Americans is extremely high. And we know that I think this race is going to be decided late. The months of January and February are going to be tumultuous. It is not going to look like where the race is now, what it's going to look like in January and February.
So how do you bridge that gap with black voters, knowing that this is a big Achilles heel for Cory Booker?
Well, we know we're doing persuasion ads right now, and that's something that we're going to continue to do. We know we have to reach these black voters and actually all voters across the aisle. You know, Cory is someone that wants to build a multiracial coalition. Part of that is through the African American community, and that is what will help us win in Iowa, Nevada, New Hampshire, and beyond.
We know that there's been a surge of polling. Both he and Castro have benefited from this recently with Kamala Harris backing down. But when you notice, our CBS News Battleground tracker poll, another poll shows 9% of all Harris supporters have Booker as their second choice. How do you convince those Harris supporters? 9% isn't a really large number of people who say they're going to throw their hat in the ring for Cory Booker.
But I would point you back to the fact that his favorables are so high among those supporters, and I would also say that at this point in the race, we still, even though we're talking about it on a day-to-day, hourly basis, we still do have a lot of time to make our case to those voters. I mean, we're less than 60 days from Iowa. That's still a lot of time. We still have, you know, the Christmas break is coming up. I think voters are really going to tune in January and February, and that is when the race is going to change.
When you look at the polling numbers, fundraising, obviously not as big as someone like a Bloomberg who believes that he doesn't have to be there on the debate stage.
We would love some of that Bloomberg money, though.
And it's not coming through, right? The polling numbers are pretty low.
Right.
What do you say to people that are whispering that is Cory Booker's campaign on life support?
I would say to go to CoryBooker.com and to help us out and help us get there. But actually, since Kamala Harris dropped out, and I say that with, so much somberness because we truly do. She was a voice that should have been in this race till the very end. We have seen a surge of donations come in because people do not want this field narrowing to just an all-white race, an all-white stage. They want a diversity of voices, and voters should have the option to make their choices on who is still in this race. And so, I would say that, that's why we're aiming to be on that December debate stage. But we also are growing our campaign. We still, we've seen this surge of donations come in. Yesterday was our best online fundraising day ever on the campaign. So we are seeing this momentum and this surge of support that we did not see in summer, and we're heading into Iowa right now, and so it's really exciting for us and a good moment.
Sabrina Singh, I want to thank you so much for joining us on set.
Thank you.